But today was bad. Light work, people. Light work. It seems we're soft all over the pitch. Yo, good evening. Welcome to GrizzCon TV, where we are slightly happier than the last time we appeared on your screen. I believe the last time we were together was the aftermath of the Arsenal result, wasn't it, people? So the REDFELLAS are, or should be slightly more happier, but we can go through them one by one and ask them if they are really happier. Conroy, how are you feeling tonight, my friend?
Yep, no, I'm good. I'm good. It was
You're on mute. Let's do this.
I'm on mute. Can you hear me? Hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yes.
Right. I actually wasn't on mute there, so I don't know what happened there.
Oh.
You hear me now?
It must be me. You know what? It was me.
You're me.
No, I wasn't on mute. I wasn't on mute.
The volume down. Was the volume down?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, take two.
Take two. Right, let's restart the stream. No, I'm only joking. No, I'm good, guys. And obviously, the other night, let's be honest, I thought it was very therapeutic. It was good to chat about it. And to be honest, I still enjoyed the chat very much. But today, it's a much more positive feeling after the performance and the result. The result was the main thing. Yes, it's great if you play scintillating. We didn't. We'll get into that. But the result was the main thing today, especially after the result yesterday between City and Chelsea.
Yeah, look, Keith. We went into this match sort of. It was a bit of a subdued feeling around it for me, anyway. I'm gonna get your feelings about it and thoughts about it. But for me, it was fairly subdued. I wasn't hyped up about it as much as I am usually when Liverpool Football Club play a game of football. You should always be excited and hyped. You should always be like Jurgen Klopp was, and we've discussed Jurgen Klopp's reactions and whatnot. But I don't know. We would know why, because 1 win in 6 going into this, and that was the Shrewsbury. A few draws that felt like defeats on top of a few defeats that were defeats. But today was what's the word? Efficiency, routine.
Routine. Grounded. Grounded out a result. Dug in the trenches. All your typical hyperboles that you'd use for a performance and a result like that. I was actually quite intrigued by today's game, and a little bit, anxious, if you will, because we've had a tough December. Let's make no bones about it. We've been through the trenches. Our WhatsApps have all been popping off. People have been quote tweeting my tweets from X, Y, and Z week back when we were top of the league and calling me out for this, that, and the other. But when we were on the pre-show with the Arsenal fans, I did say I thought, it would be great to play the guys to shake off the cobwebs in the League Cup and play a strong team. And I'm happy we did that. And I feel like that, by doing that, it contributed to today's success. And with it, very interesting looking Liverpool going forward for the next couple of weeks, which there's a lot of encouraging signs, I think, that once again, Klopp has found footballing solutions as he does.
Okay. As expected, Mr. Topred himself finding hella positives. Well, he'll explain. We'll give a chance for him to explain himself, or get slaughtered, as the comments may suggest. Evan, just a general ride feeling going into that game. Was you hyped up for it, or was you pretty much like me, or what did you expect?
That's a really good question, because I honestly did not know what to expect. The result against Arsenal was such a downer. It was such a boring game from all perspectives. It just wasn't appealing what happened against Arsenal. So I wasn't sure what I was expecting in the Premier League against a bit of a lesser team, all due respect to Brentford. It was an early morning for me. Woke up at 6 a.m. And here we are trying to ground out some wins so that we can comfortably remain a top 4 team. A Coutinho goal and assist just yesterday. It was like it was 2016 all over again. It was a bit nostalgic. So those were my feelings from this weekend.
It's Conroy. We awaited team news because the fume around the selection, in my opinion, for the Arsenal game was slightly justified. We spoke about sort of the lackluster midfield, the energy levels just around the team, the lack of ideas, tempo, etc., etc. We hear the team news. There's 2 changes. As expected, I guess, maybe. For Taki, definitely most people expected Milner to come out of the team. When you see the lineup, did you anticipate more changes, or did you think it's what we've got at the moment? How did you feel when you saw the team lineup?
I think definitely Jones coming on against Arsenal, he was probably one of the only positives. A lot of people, especially, you're not going to go all by like the Twitter fans or people saying, but a lot of them did say Jones maybe deserves a start. He tried to make things happen when he came on. So I thought Jones would start. The only kind of query was, would Ox and Jones be in the team, or would it just be one of them? I was actually very pleasantly surprised when I saw both of them were included. However, listen, I know we'll get more into that about where Ox is maybe operating and it's not his best position, but I just felt like today it was just about getting people on the park who could affect and cause problems to opposition. And overall, I know we'll get into specific events, that is what happened. So it worked out well, and I was quite happy with that selection. I think the only other one I consider, I'd mentioned, I personally thought Rob would start, but there was maybe you could say Shimikas could have came in. It worked out well for today for Robbo, as the comments have already said. We'll get into that more. But the only other one was maybe considered. People had suggested Kanate, but I thought with Matip, I think Matip, bar a few games, has genuinely probably been up there as our player of the season. We'll get into this. Oh no, barring Salah, obviously. I think Matip's been the most impressive. So I couldn't even see Matip losing his space. So I was quite happy with the lineup.
Prince Teddy, one of our best mods.
Already stole my thunder.
Yeah, he's stolen our thunder already. But we're gonna come and speak about these kind of situations. Stats and sort of the players behind the stats and how great they are, and are they actually being underplayed and undervalued? Some of the things they're doing. So big up yourself, Prince Teddy. But we will get onto that. Keith, I want to ask you first. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you was on the show with me when we done the post-match to the Brentford game. And I was a bit extra annoyed than most people, and unusually for me, because it's the first time I suggested our attitude and desire I questioned. And you very rarely question a Jurgen Klopp desire and attitude team. Like, that's the one aspect that you always expect. Sometimes there's a dip in quality, of course, and whatnot. I felt this time round, our attitude and desire was there from the start. So like I tweeted, maybe not the quality, but the attitude and desire to keep a clean sheet. I saw it very early on, and that kind of settled me down a little bit.
I think so. I think, with all due respect to Brentford, I think they're starting to be found out a lot more by the bigger teams. I felt they caught a lot of people by surprise by the way they approach Premier League football. I didn't find them to be as direct as they were in the Championship at all. And it stands to reason that they gave Chelsea a good run for their money, beat Arsenal and drew with us. So sometimes I think in football, as is in life, if you go into the unknown, sometimes it can things can take you by surprise. Things go bump in the night, and that's exactly what happened in the 3-3 game. This one, very much, I think Van Dijk knew what Ivan Toney was going to do. Matip knew what Mbeumo was going to do this time, how they were going to play a lot more direct. I just felt that the second ball, the competitions for the second ball in this game, we were up for it, and some of it can be from the fact that we dropped 2 points away, which could prove critical at the end of the season. But I think a lot of it also had to do with the fact that after the Arsenal game, you felt it in the crowds, the groans, the moans, the anxiety. Players. Klopp says that the players are very good at locking themselves away from the outside noise. That might be the case for him, but I struggle to believe, young players such as Trent Alexander-Arnold, Andy Robertson. I mean, look, me, I'm 32 years old, and I'm on socials all day long. So that generation before, you're growing up on social media, you're growing up on being connected all the time. You're seeing the Henderson compilations, whoever put that together. You're seeing.
Oh, fuck it! Don't even mention it. Like, we don't. This is a serious show, man. That's like.
But you know what I mean. But
I know what you mean.
All that content has been plastered and going viral and being shared. The players are seeing it. It's just a respect to them that they can block it all out. So I think that was their way of kind of saying, don't give us up, don't give up on us yet. There's still so much more to come from this Liverpool team. And like you said, particularly in the first 10 minutes, I felt it was scrappy, but they showed that from early.
Yeah, Hassan makes a very good point, and this is what I want to touch upon. Sort of one key word to describe our performance, and especially the start, Evan. Hassan says, felt like a professional performance, if there was ever one. Agreed, not our most exciting game. However efficient, and some bit part players stepped up, and he names 3 of them: Ox, Minamino, and Curtis. That's exactly what I wanted. When I asked you, what did you expect? I was hoping you might have asked me back what I expected. No, I'm joking. You didn't. But
how do you feel, Grizz? Tell me.
But this is what I'm saying. We need to do alternate hosting, man. This is
Grizz is just like typing in the private chat. Ask me a question.
Ask me a question, man. Give me a damn couple of minutes to answer. But Evan, I came into this game, and I don't know if I put it in the WhatsApp group. I was happy with a 1-0, but I was expecting a 2-0, but a scrappy 2-0, and not much fluency and not much chances, but just get the job done. So in my in my head, I was expecting a 1-0. I was very happy to accept a 1-0. It ended up a 3-0, and it could have been much more. But especially going off what Keith said from the previous game, this team, one thing we can say about it, it's always learning. We've seen a gradual rise in terms of its footballing IQ, and what I mean by that is the mistakes or teams that we've played and we haven't found solved certain problems. We seem to have the second or the third time we played them. As Keith says, this time round, we had them in our pockets. I mean, I know a couple of times the offside flag or the lack of the offside flag felt that they were getting through. I just felt we were so more resolute and aware of their tactics and everything. And even though we didn't have the fluency, like Hassan says, I just felt it was more. Do you remember we spoke about the control in our league winning times? I felt more control. Did you feel more control?
Absolutely. And I think, when you're searching for a word for today's performance, professional sounds about right. I think Hassan's spot on there. It was a performance maybe reminiscent of a older, maybe more boring Liverpool, more conservative Liverpool that I'd like to see more often because they won a lot of games. But I mean that in the sense that there was plenty of games, from the period of 2018 to early 2020 where Liverpool were not at their best, but they had 80% possession at home. They were constantly putting the opponents under siege, but the final ball, the final moment of inspiration, the finish was maybe just a bit lacking. But eventually, just through their sheer superiority, they got the job done, and it ended up looking like a comfortable result. So I think professional sounds about right to me. And you touched on, the fragility at times, not being in control. I think I did see a semblance of control. And like you said, if you take away the moments where a belated offsides flag sort of crushed their dreams, take away those nervy moments and they hardly laid a finger on us. And they never really looked like scoring. So yeah, professional all around and a greater semblance of control. Conservative and effective. Thank you. That's well said.
Mohit's been asking me if he's banned from the chat. Mohit, congratulations, my brother. We can see your messages in the chat. Everything is good. You are most welcome to our chat. Continue, my friend. Everyone can read your valuable comments. Conor, we get into the game. I thought we were okay. You know, there was a lot of moan and groans about people saying, "Well, we didn't start off well." I thought we started off okay, and then after the first 5 minutes of scrappiness, I think the next 20 minutes I was okay with. How did you feel? Without sort of making any great chances, I thought we had them penned. You know, like how we talk about we pen the other teams in and don't let them come out. And then it's a matter of an individual creating something out of something or set piece, as the case was. Did you have that feeling of we've got
I
them?
did. I did, guys. Can I be 2 seconds? I just have to sort something. I'll be back in 2.
Yeah, go for it. Keith, that question goes to you then directly. And people are saying 55 minutes. People actually, someone actually said 55-minute bingo, right? But it's actually 15th minute bingo. So
that would still make them the closest because I haven't seen another.
This is a setup. Conroy set me up. Now he comes back. Oh, hey!
Now Conroy's
the door went there. Sorry, the door went there. Sorry.
No worries. Well, you're on mute. So Keith, Conroy goes back to Conroy. I've asked, so I'll let him finish as the host says. So
for me.
Yeah. So Conroy.
Right, here we go.
So so basically, I was just asking you about. Did you feel
how you
the
feel?
control? Did you sense control like I did, or did you feel no? It's still a bit.
No. I felt it was
clicking.
I felt it was okay. As I said, I don't think it was like a scintillating performance, but I felt like there's still chances. Yes, people can maybe say cross after cross, but to be honest, there's certain games you just have to kind of keep knocking at the door until something falls, and set pieces prove to be brilliant. And like that, they're so valuable when you can score from one of them, and that was a really good moment today. But to be fair, touching on the game in the first half before we got that goal in the first spell, I think what Evan said, the few chances that looked like Brentford were threatening were actually offside. One where Robbo blocks it, and there was a few like that. So yes, it looks like it kind of sharpens up your defending, but they would have been disallowed anyway. I felt like overall we weren't cutting them open at ease. We weren't probably outstanding at creating stuff. However, I did feel like we were going to win that game, even if we had to get a goal in the second half. But it was quite fitting that the goal we got was from a set piece, because it did feel like one of those games. It felt like once you get the first goal, we can just control it, and then we'll be able to get a two or three. But to be perfectly honest, I felt okay with it. I definitely felt like the comments from Klopp during the week, which I meant to touch on at the last point, was they knew something was wrong with Thursday. And I know that sounds obvious, and of course they're going to say that, but the fact that he mentioned it like that, it was obviously he was very pissed off with it as well. And you knew there was going to be changes. You knew there was going to be a statement. And yeah, it worked. I was just glad to see trying something different without Salah and Mane. That was the main thing. If you feel like he's trying something different, then we're all in agreement with that. So with that in mind, I was pretty happy with the start. I felt like from about as you say, Grizz, the first 20 minutes I was happy how we started, and I felt like, yes, people might say you're spamming the crosses in, but I felt like there was enough gaps I saw in that first spell that would eventually break them down. Yeah,
and I want to touch upon this comment from help in it. This is the bit where I asked for help, collective help. We're all family, we're all brothers here.
Dabber, me and Jude. I don't know how you pronounce the double I, though. That's the thing.
Shall we say, hey, Jude?
Hey, Jude. Hey,
just to be on the safe side. But but as usual, if you could leave another comment and tell us exactly how to pronounce it, because we like to get pronunciations right on this show. You know what I mean? Keith, I want to come to you because I know you like speaking about sort of the way we play this line and how brave we are and everything. I thought today was one of the best examples of it, in terms of it looked like we've got the organization. I just thought, on the back of the last Brentford, where I thought we were the most shambolic I've ever seen, including Matip, including Matip and Virgil. I mean, I know we've spoken about Robertson having shit games, Trent having shit games, but I thought as a collective, including Fabinho, it was the most shambolic performance I can remember, apart from the 7-2 against Villa. Brentford was today. Today, I felt secure again. I thought they were focused. That's another word I wanted to use. I saw focus in Trent and Matip and Virgil. Dare I say it, Virgil looked a bit more back to his best, because we've spoken about Tony and Mwepo giving them a horrible time. I thought we handled them really well in that opening. Like, we were, as Conroy says, we weren't creating brilliant chances, but we were creating situations and the pressure was there. We didn't let them out at all. And then when they did, we stepped on them. And as I says, because of the delay in the raising the offside flag, but our underlying numbers are good.
You know what? Ironically, mentioning Van Dijk probably had one of the biggest chances of the entire game in that first 20, 25 minutes, right? When he had when the corner dropped to him and, pretty much shot it almost back as the keeper was going that direction anyway. So he could have probably got a goal, which I kind of think that he probably needs just to kind of like, again, inject that little bit of confidence into him. I've had a bit of a pop at Ivan Toney recently. And the reason why is that I felt like Ivan Toney was waxing lyrical about his future endeavours playing for a Big Six club after the Arsenal game, and since then has failed to live up to the hype, to the point where I feel like he's spoken himself into existence too much. The defenders have been on him every step of the way. And I felt Van Dijk, maybe he watched that interview too, because he was on him, winning every single header, not letting him leap out of place, even if one of Tony's dreadlocks was veering to the left. Van Dijk made sure that he was tracking him at all times. And the infamous high line, as we like to talk about it, won us so many offsides. I mean, I watched the game, and then afterwards I watched the highlights, and once again they had to package in highlights of offside chances. Again, I will continue to stand on my soapbox about this. The delay in the offsides there needs to be a quicker way to do it, because Liverpool, again, we play the high line, we win the offsides. You know, what used to be a situation where the referee would say offside, you could put the ball down and take the free kick and get on with it, has been taken away. And that is a really, really key playmaking opportunity that's been taken away by teams that should be awarded, should be praised for being able to be so structured in the line so high and catch people offside so much. There's not enough reward for it, other than the fact that you can compact the pitch a little bit more, but there should be more rewards for that. And actually, this is a shout to maybe some of the commentators and football analysts. No one's talking about it. You listen to commentary and they're making it out like this is a tight game. Brentford have got in a few times, X, Y, and Z. It's like, who got in how? Having a line that you can catch people offside is like you're worth its weight in gold.
It's an art. It's a skill.
It's an art, exactly. You can't even find stats on it, which surprises me, because, as I say, it's genuinely a brilliant way to compact and compress the pitch. And I think people should be given, players who are good at it and teams who are good at it should be given the added benefit to be able to take that free kick and not have to wait until the phase of play finishes, because not only are we missing out on being able to counterattack straight away, but we're also, increasing the level of injury. You don't know what's going to happen. You allow that next phase of play to happen. All of a sudden, someone twists does their ACL. And it never had to happen. So I just thought I'd go on a little rant there and tie in with the fact that I thought that first half our line was absolutely superb, and probably more than likely contributed ultimately to stopping the quick fire.
Any counter-attack, yeah, any sign of a counter-attack from Brentford. You're right. I'm just going to read this super chat, but we're going to discuss it at the end. Dinesh Karai, he says we can still win the title. Win game in hand, it will be 8 points. It's hard, but City could draw or lose against Tottenham or United, and we win our games. Get to April, win against City, 5 points. You never know, And Jurgen Klopp would 100% agree with you, but we will discuss it near the end. Hey Jude comes back and says the exact pronunciation is Dar Bormayan. Did anyone get close to that?
I think I was kind of close, but not exactly that. Can I jump on? Jump on the point about this one? The thing I would add about that, Keith, is if you look at it from like a linesman's point of view, like being a linesperson, linesperson is hard enough as it is. Like if you watch a Jamie Carragher, Gary Neville, like they got half of them wrong and they thought it was right. So if it's a tight call and a few of them were today, look at it this way. Yes, we can't take a quick free kick, but if they done that and a person's onside and they score, and like they miss a chance, that's much worse than the alternative. So I don't see any way around that. I agree with doing it that way, because at least then, if there's a goal that's been disallowed in the past, there's no other way around it. If it's a tight call, if the linesman puts it up or line person puts it up and it's onside, then people would be pissed off with it. So I think that's the alternative. That's the only side it's going to work. Like, there is literally not. I can't think of another way you can do that. I understand with the obvious ones, but that one today with Tony, he's still only like a yard, a half. I get some of them are annoying. I do get that, but there's some you just have to get on with it. And this thing about injuries, you can break your leg running down the line. Like, you could do anything in football. I feel like there's not a way around that. And if someone in the chat or you guys can think of another way, I'd love to hear it, because that's why they're doing it that way, because it's the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, but look, Conroy, Evan, I thought after the half an hour mark, there was a phase of about 25 minutes to about 45 minutes, where I think we lack of confidence. I thought at the time when I was watching it, I was thinking, I can just see a slight lack of confidence throughout the players, especially in attack. None of them, like Jota, going through a bit of a rough patch. Bobby's come back, 1 goal in, I don't know, a stupid stat about 1 goal at home in how many games. I don't know if somebody in the chat will remind me. And then we had sort of Oxlade and Curtis come back into the team, literally playing for their places. And I kind of felt slight frustration setting in from the crowd, especially around that area of the pitch. Naturally so, especially on the back of the performances. But one thing I've spoken to you guys about as well, and I'm a big adamant believer in, is when everyone's playing, we've got quite a spine of big players. And on set pieces, we need to fucking flood the box with them. I want to see Virgil, Matip, Henderson, Bobby, and Fabinho in that box, in that area. And yes, we cursed the deliveries the other day. Today, there was a couple of balls in there were beautiful, and we'll come on to the other balls. But this one, Trent swings in a corner, and it's one of those I'll do ones where you're looking for it to sort of land on the penalty box. And that man Fabinho, who, as I said, should be in the penalty box more often, gets on the end of it. He's becoming quite a goal scorer from midfield for us.
Yeah. I think the frustration around set pieces is a weird thing, because the deliveries in the last month have been so hit and miss, so inconsistent. But at the same time, we're in the upper percentile of goals from set pieces in Europe.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe we're just a bit spoilt and we got a little bit too used to it. Both things are possible. I think a lack of confidence is to be expected in the front three. Here you have Firmino, who, it's no secret, at full strength, he sort of lost his starting position to Diogo Jota. Then you have Oxlade-Chamberlain playing out of position. Anywhere in the front three is out of position for him. And then you have Diogo Jota, who sort of, elephant in the room. He's expected to provide the raw amount of goals. So it's really, when you analyze it from that, you can sort of understand why there might be a sense of nervousness in attack. And then you have Minamino, who, has had definitely a bit of a roller coaster 30 days in a Liverpool shirt. So that sense of nervousness and complacency, you can always best gauge it, like you said, by listening to the crowd, because, there'll always be a little bit of mumblings and grumblings coming down from the terraces. So I think you're right. And definitely we needed that goal to go in. I think you could see the visceral relief on some players' faces. You can sort of look at Virgil when Fabinho nods it across the line. He sort of looks to the sky in praise and thanks. So yeah, definitely a very potent reaction.
And a timely one as well. We often speak about sort of timings of goals, and one of the cliches of cliches is just scoring before half time.
Worst time to concede.
And Conroy, going into half time, I think you said earlier on, I knew once we score, it just had a different feel to it in terms of I didn't feel nervousness throughout the spine of the team. And I always talk about the spine. When the spine are fucking focused and on keeping you out, it's very difficult to score against this Liverpool team. Now, I don't know, guys. In the second half, someone remind me, I don't remember much action. So in that 15, 20 minutes coming after half time, I just think it was a continuation of just controlling them and then hoping. Because one thing I noticed, Conway, I thought they were going to sit in until the 75th. Like, do you remember like the Villa game where Stevie G spoke about, doesn't matter if it's one, even if it's 1-0, yeah, just sitting in there. I thought they came out their shell around the 60th minute. He made a couple of changes, and I thought, surely we pick them off.
He brought Sergio Canos on, didn't he? I'm sure he did. And they made a few.
I'll tell you right here. What he'd done. So yeah, he makes one 50th minute. So he takes off the more defensive Rico Henry and brings on Sergio Canos. And then 65th minute, he brings on Vissa, who's an attacking.
Scored against us at the first game as well.
So they went quite early in terms of trying to get this goal back. I thought they would stick in a bit more. Did it help us or did it not matter for you?
I think in between that time, if I'm correct as well, Grizz, I've not got the numbers in front of me, but I think if you guys remember as well, I think Jota has 2 chances in between that time. One should score. Keep great save by a goalkeeper, but it shouldn't be anywhere near the keeper. He's got to either loft it over or hit in a corner. That's a massive chance. If we don't win the game, I was a bit worried at that time because I thought we were comfortable, but if it's 1-0 going in the last 10 minutes in our form recently, that worries me. And then I think he hits the post before Ox scores as well.
Yeah.
So in between that, we were creating chances, as I say, not like scintillating, but you could tell that I feel like maybe that's why Thomas Franks had made the change, because he felt like he had to do something. He stop it the way it was going. But to be honest, I get the attempt with the changes, but really it was quite funny, Grizz. We're going to speak about Oxy's goal, but we've probably scored the hardest chance or the hardest incident. You know, you wouldn't expect that one to go in to be on the money. You'd expect Jota to score those 2 chances. But it worked out that way. But overall, I feel like their changes didn't really work, but I felt like our game plan stayed the same, and eventually we broke them down for the second.
We did, and it came from probably the second most expected avenue for us. The first is always Trent, right?
100%.
In terms of supply, I'm not talking about sort of the attacking front two, Mane and Salah not being there. So it's usually we rely on the supply of Trent. And secondly, Robertson. Now, Robert's been much maligned, Keith, in recent weeks. And yes, some quarters have been sort of justified in sort of because of the standards and levels he set himself, right? Just like Trent on the other side. And we often speak about Trent, Keith. I think Trent gets a lot of the glory, and rightly so, local boy, Scouser in the team and everything, and his numbers are just insane. This fella from on the other side ain't too bad either, is he? No, we're not going to tell him. Let him talk.
I think Trent gets a pass. I think there's, you add something there. I think actually Trent gets a big pass when we are talking about the standards in which we've held Robertson to this season and the criticism that's come his way and everybody writing the obituaries that his time in the team could be under threat because of Tsimikas when he just had a dip of form. Trent Alexander-Arnold over the last month has had a dip of form. There could be no denying that, right? He's not played well. I thought against Arsenal, he played like he still had COVID as far as I was concerned, and he gets away with a lot. So it's nice that Robertson today gets the plaudits because I've actually think since he's come back to the squad, albeit bar the sending off, I think he's been the aggression that we've needed. And I think he's actually come back to his best. And I think that ball is world class. Make no mistake about it. It is world class. It is beautiful. It is as if, remember you've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. You got 8 Brentford players. About 5 of them are in the box. So where Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain ultimately ends up in between two players, to be able to whip that ball in between two players to arguably probably the shortest man in the box and place it perfectly on his head is a level of world-class ability that we've gotten so used to with Andy Robertson, and we just kind of say it's normal, but it's not normal. It cannot be normal. His numbers are not normal. His numbers are world-class and will be Premier League history. You know, they'll be pulling up those numbers in 10, 15 years, you know, when we're all sitting there with kids, grandkids, whatever, and they'll ask, who was Andy Robertson? And it'll be really interesting to see what Liverpool fans' answers to that. Who was Andy Robertson? Because in my mind, he doesn't come close, and no one comes close to him from left back that can do both. Because that's the biggest irony, right? We talk about wing backs, and everybody just talks about what they do attackingly. They don't speak enough about what they do defensively. I know there was an offside situation in the first half, but Andy Robertson still made the last-ditch tackle. He's brilliant defensively, brilliant in the press, and his quality on the ball when he gets it right, which he does more times than not, was absolutely sensational. So hats off to him, and hats off to that assist, because that was needed and it changed the game. And it's that world-class ability that separates Liverpool from those scrapping for the top four below us. That is the viewpoint to one thing that is the difference maker that clubs are dying for. You listen to Chelsea fans, they're dying for a wing back of that quality. You speak to Man United fans, dying. Arsenal fans, dying. They're all dying for that kind of quality, and we've got two of them in our football club, and we should be very happy about that.
It's pretty unique. You're absolutely spot on in terms of the quality.
Look at Conroy's face. I just want to say.
It's like
I'm not going to say. I don't know what you're talking about.
He's like a proud daddy. He's like a proud daddy.
Some things, yeah. Listen, it just what a cross. That's Keith's summed it up. I'm not going to go on about it. What a cross. No words needed. No words. So just on top of that though, for the stats for Trent and Robbo. So Robbo today. I get there'll be loads of Trent stuff completely deserved about he's in double figures and he's going to break his own record. Trent's generational. We all know that. Don't
worry, you don't have to just go ahead.
No, but that's going to be the top for years to come. We know that. So maybe sometimes that's why I just feel like sometimes he deserves his flowers. So he's overtaking Graham Lasso's record of 44 Premier League assists now. He's on 45. This is a shock to some people. This shouldn't be a shock because literally every time Trent smashes something, Robbo's like one assist behind him. So if you look at the numbers, it's always been there, but sometimes it's a shock to people. So now that's in 204 games. Trent's on 43 and 154. Trent's like, it's ridiculous. Like, but just to put this into perspective, so Trent and Robbo are on that. So say Robbo's 200 games and Trent's is 154. The holder of the top assist for Premier League defenders, Leighton Baines, and Leighton Baines was brilliant. He deserves a lot of credit, but he'd done that in 404 Premier League games. So this is ridiculous. And people can say what they want. This is a 4 at the back. This is not a 5 at the back. And even if it was, I'd still give them credit because it's still ridiculous to pull those numbers up. Unbelievable. Like, just unbelievable. And the best part is when people say it's the system. I'm like, okay then. Well, why don't you get fullbacks to do that then? If it's the system, get someone else to do it. You've got a 6'5" striker. Use them to do it. It's just, I find that I just want to say that it's just unbelievable that you've literally got a kid from the academy and a boy you played for Queen's Park when he was 17 working outside Hampden part-time or two of them. It's just mad. It's just a bit mad when you think about, like, you look at the class of 92 and all these people in the past, and it's just a bit mad. I love the story so much.
Yeah. Evan, you was going to jump in, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, in 10, 20 years time, when we look back on the Klopp era, and the heavy hitters of the team and how good it was, it feels crazy to say, but I think Andrew Robertson is the most underrated player in the Klopp era. And that's crazy to say because we're always screaming from the mountaintops that he's the best left back in the world. I sort of just mean in the context of the other big hitters of this team.
I know where you're going with this. I hear you.
Everyone will talk about how transformative Alisson and Van Dijk were everyone will talk about Mo Salah, who's on course to retire as the league's greatest winger ever. But the relentless sort of consistency of Andrew Robertson, just for that period where we were unstoppable, the little things he does, and you guys have already touched on the assists. For me, what he does better than almost anybody I've ever seen do it is it's his body shape when he receives the ball is just incredible. So many times Robertson receives the ball isolated, he doesn't have a pass, and he doesn't want to pass backwards, but just sort of just shifting the angle of his hips, he's able to open up an entire new corridor for himself. And with that new corridor comes different passing options as well. And, you know, obviously in my lifetime, you guys were talking about, you know, where do these players rank? These are certainly, I mean, I've been spoiled. You know, I'm 25. I'm watching the best center back to ever play for Liverpool. I'm watching the best fullbacks to ever play for Liverpool. I'm watching arguably the greatest forward to ever play for Liverpool. So I'm really spoiled when it comes to sort of filling those categories. But yeah, these guys are relentlessly consistent. You know, Trent, when he retires, he'll be, you know, screw Graham Lasso. Trent's assists he'll be competing with the likes of Gerrard and Lampard and things like that. So incredible players.
Insane. El Drago's gone ahead of himself, like Avi usually does. We thought we got, you know, but he says this is what we want from Mill in the last 50 minutes. We haven't got there, brother. But really appreciate it. We will touch upon that. And the reason we haven't gone to that one yet, Evan, is Oxlade-Chamberlain, the recipient of that amazing pass, brilliant cross. He misses a chance earlier on, just before that. It's a chance, but it shouldn't be a chance in terms of for him. It should be one where he squares it to Bobby.
Yes.
So, but it just kind of it's a positive for me, because not only does that miss not affect his confidence and his ability to get into the box, because I think he was given a slightly different role today, where he was asked to not hug the touchline but get into the box as much as possible and make kind of late deep runs. And obviously we're going to come on to that in a few minutes with Conroy. Hopefully he's got the picture for us. But just that goal, and just him and Curtis Jones that came into the team, just give us an overriding analysis of what you thought they brought to the team today.
Well, you know, I don't know. Like, you asked me, first question of the day for me was, what did you expect from this game? I said I didn't know, but what I definitely didn't expect was Ox scoring from right wing. I just can't remember Ox having a good game in the front three. It's definitely something I look at, you know, when the team comes out. I'm just, you know, rolling my eyes a little bit, saying, "All right, here we go." But yeah, I think what that goal shows is not only, you know, Robertson starting to sort of get his confidence back with his own delivery. I think it shows that when the system's working as it should and everyone's doing what they should, it doesn't matter who's there at the far post to head it in. The delivery is good enough and the build-up's good enough that, you know, Kelleher could head it in. You know what I mean? That for me, that's the sign of a healthy team and a healthy system in practice. And you know, long may it continue. So I'm happy for the Ox. Curtis Jones, how certain corners of our fan base have convinced themselves that he's not a good player is beyond me. Because if there's one thing that's clear about Curtis Jones, is that he's got an insane depth of talent to him. It's more just about the ins and outs of senior level football, the mental side of the game, the decision making, you know, passing when you're supposed to pass and taking a defender on when you're supposed to do that. So his decision making isn't always up to scratch at the highest level, but he's absolutely brimming with talent. And I thought he brought a sort of a punch and a level of directness to our midfield that I'd say has been missing a bit. We don't have a whole lot of midfielders that are capable of sizing up defenders like a winger can, but Curtis Jones can do that. You know, neat feet in tight spaces. So I thought he brought a really different element that we've missed, and it was overall a really positive performance. I didn't find him affecting the play in any sort of negative way. And that, for me, that's quite an achievement, because so much of our struggles this season, again, have come from midfielders, you know, square pegs, round holes, things like that. But yeah, overall great performance from him. And if he can, it's a great response to the Klopp quote that about Curtis Jones in the last 48 hours, which I thought was really interesting because Klopp never really gets specific about things like that. So that's a great response from the kid. Again, I'd be nitpicking if I said he had a bad game. So I think it was a great performance.
I think
Can I just say one thing? Sorry,
Yeah,
Chris,
go
on
on.
Curtis Jones. Just one thing real quickly. To anybody new that's watching for tonight, hit that subscribe button because we already gave you the spoiler about Curtis Jones a couple of weeks ago on REDFELLAS. We were calling for him to be given his opportunity. He's been given his opportunity and he has shown us all that he has bags of talent. So if you didn't believe in him before, I hope you believe in him now and hit that subscribe button for more spoilers.
Spoilers. Saj sums up pretty much what everyone was saying. Like, sort of, Saj says obviously Ox might have scored but wasn't great today. Why Klopp plays him in the front three is a madness. That question, look, only Klopp can answer, and why he said he can be a Bobby replacement. But all you can ask of the player is to try and how often we talk about Curtis Jones not being given one specific role and trying to be molded into an all-round midfielder stroke attacking midfielder when needed. I get Oxlade-Chamberlain's obviously older and shouldn't be used in that role in terms of utility player stroke role, but unfortunately the case is that that's the way we are at the moment with the lack of players in that area. So now Naby, no Mane, Salah, no Thiago, means Oxlade will be used in positions where probably not his first choice. I mean, Oxlade made very clear at Arsenal he didn't want to play that role. That's one of the reasons why he left Arsenal to become more central for Liverpool. For another club. I remember his international debuts where he was played in midfield and it was brilliant. It really stood out. So yeah, I don't think he was brilliant as well, but you got to keep asking these guys to come in. It's very difficult to come in, fit into an attacking unit that we know has been literally 3-man attacking unit for 3 years, and it's very difficult to pick up the patterns of play and everything. But look, I hope the injury wasn't too bad as well. Must shout that out. And hopefully he gets another chance against Arsenal, who would be dying to do something against. And Saj goes on to say Jones was really good, positive, had energy and a threat when attacking from the left-hand side. And that's what we, like Jurgen Klopp, Conroy wanted, didn't he? He spoke about it in terms of, like Evan says, Conroy, the manager asked for his ability to beat players and to perform, to show us, because like he said, his technical talent, technical levels is good as anyone, I'd say, in that team, especially for a young kid. He just needs to show it on a more consistent basis. And the only way he will do that is to get consistent game time. And this is definitely his chance for the next 5-6 games, I believe.
No, absolutely. I agree with Keith, and I think it might have been Evan, sorry, about the Curtis Jones narrative. I don't quite understand it either. I've said that numerous times. It doesn't really make sense to me. It seems some players it's different. And Jones, it's like, he was good last season. He's young. He's going to be inconsistent. This should be an overall blanket of acceptance, because I guarantee when Harvey Elliott comes back, there'll be inconsistency there as well. It's just a kid. And for Jones, for me, I thought he was good today. Like, I think he showed a lot. And
It's definitely Conroy this time, guys, not me.
Yeah.
I'll just quickly read the super chat and then you can come in if he's not back there. Neil H says, lads, Curtis Jones has the capacity to dominate, but our system or lack of variety and flexible formations don't suit his attacking capabilities. Do you think Neil's trying to say, Evan, about sort of in terms of, the way our midfield's been molded in the past? But surely the way it's going now and the way we've slightly adapted, there is a role for him and a position for him.
Yeah, if it's, it's a little more gung-ho now, for better or for worse. And, I'm a big critique of the new gung-ho approach to the midfield three this season. I hear what you're trying to say, Neil, and that's a good insight. But I think in order to, if there's one thing we know about Klopp, it's that it's the system above literally anyone and everything. And he'll stick by it until the bitter end. And if Curtis Jones wants to be here at Liverpool and he wants to make a splash in the Klopp era, then he needs to learn how to play in this system. The big thing I'll say about Curtis Jones is that the things you can't teach a footballer, natural talent, quick feet, flair, anything that falls under the umbrella of natural talent. Anything you can't teach a footballer, he can already do. And the things that you can teach a footballer to do, tactical, systematic things, it's in his hands. It's right there if he wants to learn it. I'm sure he does want to. It's just maybe a matter of application. And again, I don't want to dig too much into the Klopp quotes and start reading things that aren't there, because Klopp is speaking in his second language every time he speaks to us. So we have to take that and remember that some of that is going to be misinterpreted.
Yeah, Neil comes back with another super chat. He says he's getting McManaman vibes from him. Conroy, do you relate? Do you see that?
Yeah, apologies for that, guys. I was just going to add to that as well. It's good to see him shooting from outside the box today, done it again. That's one thing. Avi would probably be your go-to correspondent for youth players in the academy, but Jones just score screamers every week and try like left foot, right foot, and obviously, I guess not everyone's Gerrard. You're not just going to, even Gerrard at the time, it took him a while to get that. It didn't take him that long, to be fair, just to start and smacking him in. And Gerrard's ping is not like anything. However, I do think Jones has got that. So I was happy to see him have the confidence, if something's not on, just to have a ping. That's one thing you can't have a go Oxlade-Chamberlain for as well. You can love him or hate him, but even if he's in terrible form, he'll try and have a shot. And I think Jones, if he can bring that, it'd be very good. The one with Jones, I want to ask you all you guys, what's his best position? Right, for me, he's 100% a centre mid. He'll go out wide, I get that, but starting, he's a central midfielder for me. You might think he could do a job at the left-hand side, similar to today. I know he started the central midfield and kind of hovered over. What do you think?
I think while you was away, just very quickly, Evan, while you was away, I think Evan kind of described sort of the way we play in midfield now in terms of that attacking 8. And I think today, the role he played today, I think he can develop and make that
similar to Elliot when he played on that time.
Especially long term, because Thiago's nearing the end of his career. Yeah. Now, before people start jumping, oh my God, Grizz has just mentioned Thiago and Curtis Jones in the same breath. I have mentioned in the same breath only for the sake of the context of what we're talking about. So where Thiago plays that, Thiago is very technical. Thiago is very about on the ball. Curtis Jones has got 85-90% things to learn yet from Thiago, but he has the capacity and ability, like Evan said, to become that player, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Evan.
Yeah, I'll just jump in real quick on the best position thing. I think he's the best at left-sided central mid.
100%, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, you want to give a player with that type of feet some type of angle, cutting in from inside, completing the triangle out there on the left-hand side. I think in order to be a winger in this current system, you need to have the raw pace and the physicality, and I don't think Curtis Jones is exceptionally strong or fast right now. Quick over 5 yards, which as we know from watching professional football, that's all you have to be. Coutinho was never fast, but Coutinho was fast over 5 to 10 yards, and that's all you need. So yeah, I'd say a central role for Jones. And like Grizz says, I think, if there's ever an iteration of this midfield that's going to suit him, it's this sort of rogue, roaming 8 sort of thing. But on the flip side, we've seen the negatives of Curtis in this midfield. He got an absolute education from Man City at Anfield. They just bossed our midfield off the park. And I thought a lot of Curtis's inexperience in pressing and tactical nuance sort of let us down that day. But again, it's 20 years old. What are you going to do?
A few people in the chat seem to think that we're overhyping him, Keith. And that's why I brought up Connor's comment here. So there's a difference between overhyping and giving him his flowers after a good performance. And that absolutely should be. I mean, why would you not be happy and proud of a Liverpool youngster playing well for your team? Sometimes it fucking baffles me, guys. It baffles me that they're very willing and happy to hammer a kid when he has a shit game. Like, we lost it with a couple of players the other day, didn't we? In the Liverpool Arsenal games. Mm-hmm. We were quite seething with them. But the moment they have a good game, and we're giving them flowers for that performance, not that they've done it, not that they're made, not that they're known as Liverpool legends now. We're just praising them on their performance against what was a pressurized game, in essence, because we're on the back of, not a few good results. couple of youngsters, well, not a couple of youngsters, Curtis Jones getting his chance, and we think he took it. That's all we said.
I think there's there seems to be, and this is across all fan bases, because it's really interesting seeing what other people talk about. And I'm going to coin a phrase here and call it the corporate mentality fan, because there seems to, like, I work in corporate, right? And in corporate, you are only as good as your last sales target, right? You start slipping below that, you're going to get cut straight away. And I feel like sometimes us as fans, we get so very serious, very like, right, well, he didn't do this particular thing, or he hasn't done this particular thing, okay, yeah, we won today, but, yeah, it's all good, but, this particular, I have these standards and I analyze. Look, enjoy the fact that a young man from the academy came on against Arsenal in the League Cup and completely changed the game. Play today in a position that we have been talking about since Thiago's been gone for what's been forever, right? And the fact that the boy has magic in his feet, right? He can do things unexpected. He's got, he's brilliant dribbler, and it's not just a phase. We're not talking about Curtis Jones that scored the banger against Everton. We're talking about Curtis Jones now, who's been in the Liverpool squad for coming up to 3 years. To be in the Liverpool squad for 3 years, for Klopp to be trusting you on the training pitch to play alongside these guys, you have to, again, I always go back to this. Training is just as important as what happens on the match day itself. If you are in this squad, then you have something special about you. And Curtis Jones has shown that he has that something special about him. Yes, there can always be arguments that he could improve in certain aspects, but take nothing away from his raw ability. To do what he does on that football pitch is not easy, particularly as he's a very skillful player. Mo Salah talks about playing football on the streets. Only players who play football on the streets can work in such tight spaces. Well, Curtis Jones is one of those players who can work in tight spaces. And when you need to unlock a deep-lying team and you need to kind of get there, make their defenders feel anxious, like, shit, he's got the ball now. He's going to put us on our heels a little bit more. We know that he can shimmy and shuffle. That is a positive. Yeah, and I think there's an opportunity. Again, it's all about opportunity at this moment in time. Just like Thiago took an opportunity to take Wijnaldum's place and turn it into the Thiago role, Curtis Jones now has an opportunity to turn that much maligned left centre midfield role into a Curtis Jones role and maybe bring something different to that particular position that maybe Thiago didn't offer before, that makes us more threatening. So, let's enjoy the fact that this week, it's been Curtis Jones's week. And he deserves all the flowers in the world. And I really, really hope that, he makes a real statement on Thursday, because I could probably guess he's probably going to start unless Klopp goes Milner. And let's hope that he really he puts a third and gets a run in. Let's hope he gets a run.
Exactly, Keith. The key word that you said is let's hope. And that's what you can ask for from a youngster that plays for your team. We're not saying watch him go and smash it against Arsenal, because that's the arrogant part. We're not saying, did you see Curtis Jones today? That's what you call a baller. Watch him dominate. What you said was he played very well today, and we hope that he can go on and utilize the natural skills that Evan was referring to, the natural ability he has, and make sure that is coincided with the other aspects that Jurgen Klopp is trying to coach into him. The discipline, the off the ball, the maturity, to the timing of the pass. And no one, well, I'm not, I can't speak for all of you lot, no one is saying that he's mastered that. What we're saying, we're seeing the raw talent that he has the ability to go on to become to the next level. I wanted to bring up Remy's comment, because just in case Remy thought I'm going to ignore this comment. Grizz, stop the gassing. Fans have a right to their opinion that is different from yours. You don't always reflect the best take of things and players yourself. Spot on, my brother. That's why I brought up your comment. Sorry, Conroy, did you want to come in there?
I just want to add, it's the thing, the reason I don't always get this with Jones is I don't know if it's a perspective you're looking at him. So for me, I'm just seeing a guy who can come in and get a 7 out of 10 performance when we've maybe not got the squad depth to play that game. To me, that's effectiveness, and I'm happy with that. I don't know, some people are like, maybe because I'm not judging him to be like the next saviour for Liverpool, that maybe I'm more balanced about it. I don't know if that's maybe it, guys, but for me, If he comes in and gives, like, if we're depleted and he comes in, or lack of squad and he comes in and gives a 7 out of 10 performance, happy days. That's what you want. That's a midfielder from the academy who can do that. I don't know if it's because my perspective, but there is definitely I don't know if it comes down to that mistake against West Brom, that stupid mistake that to pass to Reece Williams, gave a corner away, and West Brom scored. I don't know if it's from last season, but since then I feel like there is definitely maybe we're some people overhyping him or maybe going too far the other way. But for me, I just see a kid who comes on, fills the gap for a midfielder who's not there and does a good job. And if he gives me a 7 or 8 out of 10, I'm delighted. But that's how I view it. So I don't know if maybe other people see him as like the next Steve McManaman, if you know what I mean, or something like that. I don't see it to that extent yet. I'd be surprised if if he does get to that level, amazing for Liverpool. But that's how I view it. So maybe that's different to others. I just wanted to say that.
One quick thing on Jones. And sometimes people accuse. We've gotten some accusations today. Let's just say it how it is, that we're overgassing him, overhyping him. Listen, I like to think that I'm a level-headed fan. I come with facts and evidence when I make my points and I hold my opinions. But if there's one area of following football where I do like to go potentially over the top, overdo it a bit, it's rating Liverpool's young players. And guess what? I'm self-aware that I'm doing it. You know why I do it? Because it's fucking fun. It's fucking fun to think that Curtis Jones could be a top 20 midfielder in the world one day. It's fun. It makes me feel good. That's why I do it. It's really not that deep. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's really not that deep. And here's the thing. If I'm wrong about it, oh, well, I acknowledge that I was throwing a Hail Mary there. Whatever. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's really not that deep. And I wish people were just like relax and have some fun with it a little more.
Guys, do you remember at the start of the conversation and like the show, I was talking about sort of learning. And while I was watching the game, I was wondering if Brentford, I nearly called the Brentwoods in Essex, if people don't know. Brentford, do you remember in the first game, lads? And I just wanted to get your opinions and thoughts on it very quickly before the show. And now we're on the show, we can discuss it. How we spoke about Trent having a nightmare, but then some people were trying to defend Trent's performance and say the way they not doubled up, tripled up on his side, how we didn't cope and adapt to seeing Trent being double teamed and triple teamed at some stages. I just wanted I noticed a slight change in formation in terms of with us as well, on the ball and without the ball. And I noticed, I mentioned about sort of most people thought Jota's going to play wide left, Bobby's going to play through the middle, Ox is going to play wide right. It wasn't quite like that. What I noticed in the game was Ox, as I said, was being used as a runner almost to get into the box on the right-hand side, and Jota was inside left, and Bobby was almost playing like a 10. And then what that enabled was Ox to be inside on the right, and it enabled Henderson to be far more protective of Trent on the right side. And I noticed that, again, Hendo's been getting a lot of stick in terms of he hasn't been doing his defensive duties or maybe not physically be able to get back because he's been asked to attack as well. But I thought that little tactical tweak with Ox playing in that role helped. Now, Conroy, I asked you to get a heat map, not a heat map, what's it called? An average position map, sort of for the players. And lo and behold, we noticed that was the case. They still tried to double up, but absolutely had zero effect this time.
Yeah, I'll just bring it up now. That's up here. That's the overlay here. So if the folks can look at that there, you've got Liverpool's average positions. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know, you or Evan, one of you can start. So look, what I noticed was actually true. So look, we see that sort of 20 is Jota, 15 is Ox. And their average position are like sort of fairly split strikers, with Bobby, playing as a 10. And if you notice, they still try to overlap. Look at the way Brentford's average positions are on the pitch, guys. Like there's 2, 5, 6 players literally trying to give Trent a horrible hard time, similarly like how they did, but to no avail this time.
Yeah, they were looking for that diagonal quite a lot, yeah, or at least trying it or going for it. But absolutely, that's a great find, Grizz. It really is. For you just to watch the game, I noticed that slightly, but the stats there, the average positions, is really, really telling. But if you just, I'll take a quick take and I'll let Evan comment in on it. I did feel that you could tell that Bobby always drops slightly, but if you can see there, he's basically standing next to Fabinho going to shake his hand in this game, and I think with Jota, you always find that he's always kind of manoeuvring. He's never actually wide left. He's always kind of looking for that space wherever it is. I could probably add to Evan's point with the triangles. That helps Jones a lot as well, because I know we've done the triangles either on the left with Jones or on the right with Elliott, Salah, and Trent. And I think it actually allowed Robbo and Jones to kind of get a good rapport, and then the movement of Jota really helped. And that's looking at that directly. I think that actually helped us in our creativity today as well. I don't know if you guys agree, that little tweak or that type of movement. Obviously it did, especially for Robbo's cross, allowing Ox to get the goal. I thought it was really good to see us try something slightly different today. I know we worked on similar stuff in the past, but it obviously helped today. And it's good to see when it doesn't work during the week and you feel like our creativity is non-existent or really quite low. It was really brilliant to see us look to try something and it worked out perfectly. So I'll let you crack on, Ev, with it.
Evan, what did you thought about the tactical tweaks? Not only sort of in anticipation of what Brentford would do, but sort of to make our attack slightly different because of the fact that we haven't got Mane and Salah.
I think you touched on it before we brought the graphics up. I mean, Ox wasn't really trying to replicate what Salah does. If anything, Ox was sort of the definition of a system player there. Today he was there to sort of keep everything ticking, play a role. We're not expecting you to make up for any sort of raw output. The two things that stand out to me from these graphics here, though, is guys, sometimes the game is really easy, especially when you have these sort of graphics to back it up. Firmino, the quintessential false nine. Look what happens when you drop 10, 15 yards. Look at all that space. Look at all that space for those inside forwards to run into. Sometimes the game really is that simple. You run out of space, you vacate the space, and now there's space for your teammates. Like it, people love to overthink.
Basically, that gap between the 5, right, and the 18 is the run that Ox made.
Yeah,
for the goal.
Absolutely, and you're right to point that out. The second thing that stands out for me is look at how uniform the shape is. It's very symmetric, and this is what an elite level system looks like. Even if the system hasn't consistently produced the results like we would want to, this is what elite positioning looks like. As you can see, extremely uniform, almost entirely symmetrical, slightly offset with the positions of Jota and Ox, but if you look at everything else, it's really pretty.
It's pretty elite coaching, as you said. This is what it's all about. Keith, did you want to, I love the comments in the chat. Grizz with his low budget Sky Sports. The tactics boards. Who needs Monday Night Football?
This was 10 minutes before we came on. See if you can give us 2 hours before. We'll do better than Sky Sports. You've not seen what Abby can do, folks.
Exactly. Keith, did you want to make any comments on that?
My first point is that love Allison essentially playing as a centre back.
I know.
We didn't notice that. Hey, we didn't notice that as well. That's the observation of observation.
There we go. So one of the things that I know, I'm so glad you brought this up because I felt that we were a lot more compact in the midfield today. We didn't allow them to breathe and to have that outlet that Norgard, I think, is really good at. A very underrated player, Christian Norgard. He actually
was Bobby's role. Let's actually take this off now, Conray, please.
Yeah, he actually did. He was successful once when he put Mbeumo through, and that was probably their biggest chance of the game. So I felt we suffocated their midfield, and they didn't get the opportunities to play those balls because they were just surrounded by you got your Ox buzzing around, you got your Jota, you got Firmino buzzing around. Everyone was just kind of like, working hard in the middle. And I felt that I'm really interested to see if Klopp is going to turn Liverpool for the time being into that. Okay, cool. We're going to suffocate teams in the centre and take our opportunities in set pieces or through the press. Because I then went and looked at the Chelsea setup and actually a few setups afterwards. And what you'll notice, everyone in the chat, when you get some chance, go look at these two score things, is just how high up Mo Salah is. When Klopp says Mo Salah does not have any responsibilities in defensiveness, it shows on these maps, because he is literally there and the rest of the team are doing their thing. So Trent and Henderson probably had more protection from Ox today than they probably had for most of the season. And that's not a knock on Salah. That's just a risk that we take. So it will be interesting. Now we're not going to, I suppose, take those risks as much or give that license. Just how harder it's going to be for teams to play that tactic that many of them do, right? The low block. We're going to catch the ball. We're going to move the ball quickly through the midfield, diagonals, get forward as quickly as possible. Now we've got a lot more people to actually work for each other in both sides of the flanks. Again, knock on Mane and Salah, but the game is the game. I will be interested to see how this develops over time. But, again, Klopp promised us footballing solutions to this situation, and he delivered on those footballing solutions by giving us something that we've probably not seen before, really, when you think about it. Just based on how much license our two wide forwards are given to go forward and stay forward. So
just a couple of super chats before we carry on. Exactly. Ronaldinho Goat says Thiago, and then Jones left centre mid, and then he says Elliott and Keita right centre mid. Thoughts, Evan? Just quickly, thoughts. It's options, isn't it? That's what we want. We want options.
I like the options, assuming Fabinho's in between those players.
Oh yeah.
He's a centre back.
I'm
joking. I'm joking. We don't want to think about that again. Not after last season.
My thoughts on that looks like a midfield that would get absolutely roasted in transition. Again, I'm probably going to sound like a broken record player. I would like a return to a more conservative midfield where we have Fabinho holding a roaming 8 and then an enforcer, kind of like Wijnaldum, sort of roaming the midfield with Fabinho. I'm not a fan of the 2 roaming 8s. I don't think the Premier League necessarily sustains that approach unless you're Pep Guardiola. So those are my thoughts on that type of midfield.
As Drago says, I don't know why some fans don't rate him or waiting on a mistake to hate him. He's a good 20-year-old kid. If he was playing for another team, they will say he's talented and we want him. And that is slightly frustrating. I would agree with that. We know if Elliott and Curtis Jones were other teams and we were sort of in the market for such creative players, we would say, wow, I wish we had players like him. But, we'd rather buy and just sort of, not even our frustration with the owners. There's just sometimes there's a fascination of just literally a new toy. Now, I know some people don't like that phrase, but unfortunately it is true. So you can hate it all you want.
Chris, can I just jump in?
Of course you can. Sorry, you wanted to come in on that. Yeah.
Just on the last bit Keith said, Keith, I think that's a brilliant point. Like, I really think you need to fill. That's a great point as well, because we're looking at from the attacking output, but you're looking from what it can do for us defensively. I think that's a brilliant point, Keith. What I would say as well, what I like about it, and I meant to say earlier, is if you look at the start of the season with Elliott and when Thiago's been there as well, but specifically they've kind of done the triangle shape similar to Jones today. You know how it's like the triangle working together, whereas it's really good to see that there was a variety on both sides. So Jones's side's like that today, similar to with Robbo going out wide, and then when you had Elliott there at the start of the season, you had Trent sometimes coming central. But it's good to see today that when he used Ox, he used it differently. And I think that's a really, really good to see that we've got one side operating slightly different to the other, and therefore it's causing a bit unpredictability against the teams. Who's obviously, bear in mind, teams will watch us, study us for weeks before the game. So for us to do that, I feel like that's a really, really insightful thing to see. But I just, Keith, I think your point was brilliant, so I just wanted to add that.
Keith, continuing with the giving you flowers of brilliant points. You made a brilliant point in terms of the way we pressed and sort of made sure they couldn't get out, especially that, as you said, the tightness in midfield. Our third goal is a result of that. I mean, obviously they make absolute balls of it, trying to play out against Bobby Firmino and Minamino, who's an insane presser as well, is suicide, footballing suicide. And lo and behold, that's what they tried to do. I thought the keeper was excitable. He made a couple of good saves for them, but that was just mad. Bobby has a chance to score possibly, but Bobby, being Bobby, decides to set up Taki on his birthday for a tap-in. Beautiful.
Oh no.
Strike three.
No.
Strike three. Fuck's
Get
sake.
out of
3
here.
strikes
Get
in
out,
the
man.
stream.
Get
Well,
out.
Do you know
chat,
what
should we kick him? Chat, answer in
what
the
I mean?
chat if we should kick Keith.
3 strikes
Oh,
and you're
man.
out. Yeah.
After all those flowers as
Sorry,
well.
Keith. It's done. It's done.
After
That's
all
it.
those
You're gone, mate.
flowers.
That's it. That's the rule. Free.
This
It's
was in
done.
your contract,
Over.
bro. This is in your contract that you signed.
He's away.
Oh man. Look, after the open goal miss from Minamino, which I still haven't forgiven him for against Arsenal, sorry to say. It was a nice touch. Sometimes I feel that them two in that situation, if I would ever think that 2 players could miss in that situation, it's Firmino.
That's the last thing you want, isn't it? You 100% don't want it.
So, gift was Firmino thinking, nah, I don't want that noise. I don't, nah. But all that aside, I think you built that quite nicely. A nice goal for him and great press because Minamino instigated the initial press together with Firmino. They both just boxed them in, and Brentford fans have been complaining about the defensive frailties for some time. So I'm not surprised that happened. And it is the case of Taki. I mean, unless you're Taki's agent, which is Avi, who probably deserves. Shame he's not here today. He probably would have had a whole 5 minutes to talk about.
He would have made that tap-in look like that is.
If
we would have had a 10-minute segment on just his position and technique for literally a 5-yard
apart
tap-in.
for 15 minutes, but I was like, no, half the show is on time.
The question I still have, again, maybe looking to into it, but it's something that I brought up, is just the trust aspects with Minamino.
Go on, say it, because you said something at the start of the game. I'm not going to let you off now. We've given you flowers.
Yeah.
Now it's time to ask you some questions about your statements that you made before the game. Has it changed? Obviously, I don't think it would have over a tap-in. But just your overall thoughts on the situation and Taki and Liverpool in the future then.
Yeah, for me, at the end of the day, is my tweet, the actual tweet I did say, was that Minamino benched again when we need him the most. Klopp needs to dead these baseless claims that Taki is part of the plan and get a forward in this January marketplace. Look, Klopp, I know you're an idealist. I know that you think the world of everybody. You believe that as long as you're in the moment, that's all that matters. If you're in this team, that's all that matters. And, Taki, I'm sure, is a fantastic person to have around this football club. Make no mistake about that. I believe in all of those statements. However, I also believe that it's very, very telling that there's been multiple opportunities for you to go and call Taki Minamino this season and play him, and you opted not to. And in fact, you actually opted for a midfielder to play in the forward positions instead. That, for me, is a massive statement. If you can only trust this player in the Carabao Cup, when you, again, it's a boring record comparing everything to Manchester City. But at the end of the day, Manchester City, Pep Guardiola will probably change that front four about 1 million times every season, right? It's the fantasy football players potluck, whether you captain Sterling that day and then he opted for Mahrez, whether you transferred in Foden the night before and then he started Bernardo Silva instead. That's
Zinchenko on the left back when you've got Cancelo that week, stuff like that.
There we go, exactly that. But that's trust. Clearly Pep Guardiola trusts these players to play and win him 3 points. And that's the difference. Klopp's choices are, and I know that Klopp likes to do his general 11, but you've got to start to look at the trust involved in his selections. And I think that's definitely a big one. Move him on, I don't think so. But with Divock Origi clearly not available anymore, I think it's time to Klopp to really start to look at what it means to be an understudy to Mane, Salah, Firmino, and Jota. What does it truly mean to be that fifth man? Because I believe that fifth man now has to be just as much of a starter as the other 4.
Pretty concise there. I mean, I don't know if you guys want to jump in there.
When you go, Evan, mate. When you go.
Yeah, I mean, I touched earlier that I don't think Curtis Jones will ever be a winger in this Liverpool team because he's not particularly fast or not particularly strong, and you can make that exact same case for Minamino. And you could say, okay, well, he's a central player. He can do the false 9. Again, physically, I think he lacks the profile for even that type of work. Obviously, there's clearly a player there in Minamino. I just, but the gulf in class between being the top 5 player in Austria and being a starter for Liverpool. There's many levels in between those two. So, for example, I could see Minamino being one of the better players in like the Bundesliga or something like that. But I do have doubts over where he fits into this Liverpool team, both tactically and just whether his profile as a player fits this level of football. But, again, he's clearly got talent, and we're going to need it for the upcoming period.
Conrad.
Yeah, not to be a broken record, because I said this before. I do think the thing with Minamino is I do think he's I do think he's a good player. I can get the maybe levels from like, being a good Premier League player to coming in to be the understudies to the front three. But for me, it's definitely a formation. There is a player in there for a certain formation. I think Avi spoke about this before, is either maybe a second striker, like, or maybe in a 4-4-1-1, or even just you could even have him as a left mid, something like that. There's definitely a role he'll play in another team that would, I think he's a good player, and he's always intelligent enough as well. I think Avi compared him to Kagawa. Don't know if that's the exact fit, but that's maybe a decent comparison. And it's like, I just feel like he'll probably do better when he leaves. However, what I would say, Keith, I think Origi's first, mate. Origi, if you want a number 9 first or a forward, you're probably looking to get rid of Origi and then bring someone in. So I could still see us having Minamino for the foreseeable. And see, to be honest, if you can come on in the last 20 minutes and still do it in the League Cup, if he plays against Arsenal and he scores the winner, everyone's going to forget about the miss on Thursday. I still do think there's a player in there, and I feel like we'll probably will stick with him till the end of the season and then review it. But one thing I wanted to add on that, what I would say about wingers is I slightly disagree. I get the point, in our system you have to be pacey, and I get that. But there is some wingers who are just intelligent, and just good at that, and there may be none of the above that you just said. Yossi Benayoun's the best example. Like, he was good at Liverpool, but if you look at him at West Ham especially, it's like, I was watching an interview with Kyle Walker, and Kyle Walker's rapid, literally faster than Mbappe. Mbappe's can't even get past him. And he said the worst opponent he had, and I just thought I'd drop this in because I just remembered it there, was Yossi Benayoun. Because what Yossi Benayoun used to do is, when you've got a fast fullback, you want someone who's going to drop in, play 1-2s around you, and not just be the straightforward hit it past them and try and beat them. So there is certain players, I think, if you've got the intelligence and your kind of football mind, you can work around that. And that was my hope with Minamino, because he's obviously an intelligent player, but it's just not going to work out in our front three, as you said, Evan. And I feel like he'll probably do a job for a bit and then eventually move on. And who he goes to next, I think that formation will suit him more.
Yeah, I said about Minamino, I said it at the start of last season, and I said he could be a useful asset going forward if Klopp's going to evolve our attacking style and formation. What I meant by evolve, I didn't mean sort of complete change, maybe evolve, but tweak in certain games. So like Conray's saying, I think Taki can do a job and can play a role if we play in a certain way. The only problem with that is we very rarely change the way we play, especially in attack. And because the reason why we don't change the way we play in attack is because of the success of our front 3/4. So it's very difficult to sort of, to sort of create a position or a role for just Taki. And to ask Taki to be the player that Keith says, to really consider himself as a realistic challenger for the front three, is asking for too much, in my opinion. Some may disagree. Avi may disagree. We know he will disagree. I don't think he's up to that challenge. But in terms of creating himself or making himself a very useful squad player, which every club needs, I think he's capable of that. And he's most certainly useful for that. And going forward, that's what we're going to have to analyze. I agree again with Conroy today about the Divock shout. He's the first one we need to make a decision on before Minamino, in my opinion, because that role is far more important for me because he's the central striker. That's just my opinion, but obviously it's one of those topics that we can discuss.
We're going to touch on that at the transfer, the end of the transfer window. That'll definitely be one of them.
Yeah, look, when we bought him, I was hoping that we could utilize him in sort of a variety of positions, because you got to remember, Thiago, Jota, Minamino, you think to yourself, maybe there's a thinking from the coaching team that we're going to change the way we attack in certain games, in some games, against certain opposition. Again, I don't think we've done it enough. Maybe that's a criticism as well, that we haven't changed. We haven't got, what's the word? We haven't added more bows to our arrow. Or
Yeah,
arrows to our bow.
Yeah, no, another bow to your arrow. I think, is it arrow to your bow?
No, I think it's string to your bow.
String to your bow. That's it. That's it.
It's string.
Are you trying to say there's no one?
The chat, come on, chat. You need to save us here. I'm just staring at the chat.
Bows to
No,
our arrow?
it's string. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
pretty sure.
no, you're right about string, but I think you can say string to your bow. So
Yeah, that's what I said.
Is that what you said?
That's what I just
as well.
That's what I just said. String to your bow. Yeah.
It's an English saying. It's not an American saying.
Yeah, and I'm still dunking on you guys. What about it?
Evan's very cultured. Evan's very cultured.
Okay,
Yeah,
he
Prince
watches
Teddy's,
foreign cinema. You know?
okay, he's confirmed it. Prince Teddy's confirmed it. It's just adding a string to your bow.
Yeah. Don't know why we both thought it.
Hold
was
on, adding a
arrow.
string to your bow, but then someone's saying no, it's another bow to your string.
That's
Oh, no,
backwards.
it's definitely not.
That's backwards.
No, it's definitely not bow to your string. Sim, get out of here. It's not. It's not. But yeah, look, these are some of the topics of conversation that probably come on a later date, but they're relevant now because the likes of Curtis Jones, the likes of Oxlade-Chamberlain, the likes of Taki will be needed in the next few weeks, because we go to Arsenal from here, guys, very, very quickly, because we're going to look at it in depth during the week. But our next mission target is the Emirates, Keith, and getting one over Arsenal. It's 0-0. Are you feeling confident that we can get through to the final?
Yeah, I'm really, really confident. Really confident now. I think I don't think Arsenal not playing against Spurs was a good thing for Arsenal. Again, less matches, less opportunities to be able to build around missing players and injured players. I mean, they lost, 3-4 players to AFCON. That's now not on the training pitch at the moment. And you're trying to implement a new style. I think they got away with one against Liverpool, to be honest. Really got away with one. We were just not up for it. But I think this game was the perfect game for us to play and for this whole situation to happen, because it allowed us to just dust off the cobwebs and kind of go back to what was happening. Remember, we've had a very turbulent couple of weeks, regardless, that kind of experience of being
I'd say, yeah.
These men have had COVID, these men have had shutdowns, this, that, and the other, is impacting you. Now it feels like we've gone over the bridge hill on that one, and I think Arsenal are there for the taking. I cannot wait. I'll be there. I shall be there. So I cannot wait. I think it's going to be. I'm really, man. Come on, League Cup final, Klopp against Tuchel. That'll just. There's just so much.
Don't get there yet.
Let's
Just
get there
one game
first,
at a time.
Keith.
One
Let's
game
get
at a
there
time.
first, yeah. Conrad, I'll come to you next then in that case. As confident as Mr. Top Red himself, or
Chris, you know what it is. I always think when we go to the Emirates, and some of the comments are saying it as well. I never think we do ourselves justice. Barring last season, I've said this a few times. Like, we've played poor Arsenal teams. Bear in mind, was it when we got 97 points? We drew 1-1 at the Emirates that season. Like, Milner scores the goal. Like, we win the league, we lose 2-1 because we concede Alisson and Van Dijk are having a party. In that game for some reason. It was just no, it was a work event. Sorry. Sorry. I didn't even mean that. I didn't even mean that, honestly.
Yeah.
Evan will not get the reference to that. If Evan gets the reference to that, I'm going to knight him.
Say it one more time.
No, he didn't get the reference.
Oh wait, no, he didn't get a reference. I'll tell you.
No,
After
you won't
the
get
Say
the
it one more
reference.
time.
I said Van Dijk and Alisson were having a party in that game we lost, and then I said, but it was a work event.
No, it's an English political thing.
Yeah,
We'll
just
explain.
after
Oh
this,
yeah, because he got caught having a party. At
Yeah,
the
well,
Evan.
This man cannot be touched.
This
Je ne
is
sais
why-
quoi on this man.
Yeah.
Je ne sais quoi.
Man of
It's
culture,
too much.
Evan. Honestly,
I'm just
Yeah.
guys. I'm just on Twitter too much. You're gassing me up a little bit.
Oh,
He's in too many spaces. What was I going to say? Yeah, I just think I always don't like going to Emirates. It's a bit like Stamford Bridge. I just feel like we never do ourselves justice, and I do think it'll be a tough game because I can still see Arsenal having, unless you know anything further, I can still see them having a strong or a relatively strong team out. A lot of pressure on Arteta, especially on that team, because they're out the FA Cup as well. For them to win it, this is the only trophy they can potentially win. I think it's going to be a tough game, guys, especially not having Mo and Mane. But I am more positive. After today, I feel like there's a few options of versatility we can use. And I don't know about you guys, would you play? We'll get into, no, I'm not going to ask the team you'd play because we're going to do the pre-match on that. But in general, I feel like we've got options now. We can try a few different things that will hurt them. And I'm thankful we've got that. And yes, I still think absolutely we can win. I'm just a bit more worried's the wrong word. I just think at times at the Emirates, we never do ourselves justice. And that's the only thing. Last season we did great, but that's the only thing I think about the Emirates.
I'm pretty much with you as well, Evan. Very quickly on that before we speak on the last subject. I'm just going to put my threepence in there, and I'm pretty much with Conroy. I never seem confident when we're going to the Emirates. I'm totally opposite of Keith. Keith's flying and thinks we're going to smash them. I genuinely think this could go to penalties.
Well, I think if you're Mikel Arteta, you might be weighing up the tactical implications of sending someone out there to get an intentional red card. Because if the game stays 11v11, Arsenal will probably lose. But if the game is reduced to an 11v10 sort of situation, then you're right, it could easily go to penalties.
Okay.
Obviously, as a guy who has only been to like 3 Liverpool games in his life, all the stats around like Liverpool have X record at X stadium, I mean, those obviously just don't mean anything to me, like, because I'm not there feeling it. You know what I mean? I'm not feeling the taboo of walking into the Emirates. You know what I mean? Or things like that. So, stats like, oh, Liverpool haven't won away at Reading in 125 years. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, just so stats that venture into that territory, I just don't care for. So I think, yeah, if it's 11v11. And they're out of rhythm, like you guys were saying, then I fancy your chances. Yeah.
Let's see. I'm a bit nervous going into it. I genuinely want to beat them now. I genuinely care about this cup. I genuinely care that we're playing Arsenal, who made all the noise and then managed to get their, after all that fucking noise, they actually managed to get their game postponed for lesser cases of actual COVID, which is insane. But
I'm gonna need an investigation. I'm gonna need the FBI and the CIA to get involved. We need to get, or what's your guys' version of that? MI6. Let's get MI6 on that. Yeah. James Bond, are you available? Please look into that.
100%. I'm backing that, man. They do need to get looked into, for the very fact that how they managed to pull out the North London derby and then have another nice extra week for that biggest game of their season, without doubt. This is the biggest game of their season so far. Just very quickly, Conroy, once we know we'd won our game, near the end of the game, the crowd started singing Rafael Benitez's name, obviously coinciding with the news that he's lost his job at Everton. Just some thoughts on that.
Yeah, like, I'm sure that's in a touchy class way, where there's some songs in the Merseyside derby that I thought was very disrespectful, but we'll not get back into that regarding. I think they're shouting his name when we were 4-1 up, which I thought that was kind of distasteful, to be honest, for a legend that is Rafa. And people can have their own opinions on that, but I thought that was I think that came from quite a good place, a bit of a touchy class by doing that, to kind of show he's still got one half of the Merseyside that sticks by him, and he's still a legend in their eyes. Yeah, I feel like, to be honest, right, they weren't great. They lost to Norwich yesterday. I think that's maybe the nail in the coffin. But barring the last couple of weeks where they've signed the Ukrainian left back, I can't pronounce his name, and they've signed
Milienko.
And
Michaelenko.
And Nathan Patterson.
All right, show off. Nobody likes to show off on that.
Yeah, there you go. And Nathan Patterson from
Rangers.
I don't even know if he played today. I've not even checked yesterday if he played. But in general, if that's his first 2 signings, he signed Demarai Gray for $2 million. Obviously, the bargain of the season. How anyone else didn't see that is beyond me. And Andros Townsend. So really, he's only really got the foundations his own players in, and they too have been a success. So really, probably slightly unfair. But I think the fans in general, probably 80% of them wanted him gone before he came in. So it wasn't really going to take too much.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't going to see
Poison
if that's like a
chalice.
Martinez or something like that, or someone, a Duncan Ferguson, they're going to stick by him because he's got that. But because of that affinity that was already there, that kind of dislike, it wasn't going to take a lot to push to kind of finalise that for me.
The ultimate poison chalice. Sidney Fisher says, Keith, not sure there are many steps left for Rafa in management anymore. What do you think?
I disagree completely.
Okay.
So here's my take on the whole situation. I think, first of all, it was always going to be difficult for Evertonians to warm up to Rafa. But I think one of the things that really struck in his goodbye message, and sorry if my eyes are looking up here, but he says the words, "My love for this city, for Merseyside and its people." You have to remember one thing about Rafa Benitez. Rafa Benitez is an adopted Liverpudlian. The guy's lived in the area, family still lived in the area, even when he went on all his journeys. You know, he was still very much a man of Liverpool. And for me, my take on it is that he saw the opportunity to help Everton, who needed help, another club in Liverpool. And there'd been such a big enough gap between what he'd done with us and the eras that have gone by. You know, Evan, you say what, 25, right? So the Rafa stuff, I was in high school at the time when we won the Champions League. Like, you know what I mean? This was almost over 15 years ago, 16 years ago. I just think that that's a massive missed opportunity for Everton as a whole. I think they were hit by a big injury crisis to their talisman. It could be no doubt about that. They're in a situation right now where the club has purchased, they've not bought well at all. You know, people cry about £100 million signings all the time. Will you go on transfer market and see what £100 million been buying Everton over the last few years? The club is poorly managed from the top. It's obvious to see. But I still believe that with Dominic Calvert-Lewin fit and available.
Oh, here we go. The weekly Dominic Calvert-Lewin shout from Keith. Brilliant. Weekly. He's like the equivalent of Luis Diaz for you, isn't he?
Yeah, no. But for look, yes. For Everton, he is. He is, because at the end of the day,
fair shout.
They're in that. But you're right. It's a sad way it had to end. But I think Everton and the board and the structure behind it need to come to a realization of where they currently have bought themselves into. And they've brought themselves into a team way, way, way behind the top 10. They are so far behind the top 10, it's not even true. And good luck to them. As for Rafa Benitez, I still think he absolutely has a job in Premier League football. He could even take on the big Sam Allardyce job and start, teams that, as long as they buy into him and buy into his ideas, I think he can still keep teams up in the Premier League. So I think he's still got a career in that level. Look at Ancelotti. People wrote Ancelotti off when he went to Everton, and now he's top of La Liga and in the Champions League last 16. So the quality's there. Comeback
point there.
So, best of luck to him, because I still love the man. What he done for Liverpool was amazing. So, I feel bad for him, but it's Everton's loss, and hopefully he finds a new home because he deserves it.
Evan, I'm not going to ask you what next for Everton because I have a small inkling feeling your reply is going to be along the lines of I couldn't give a shit. But if you have, then feel free to tell me what next for Everton, because the rumors are very, very hot that it's
Martinez or Duncan
Martinez. So Martinez, the current Belgium manager. Does that make sense to you?
Coming back.
Yeah. That's apparently good talks. Does that make sense to you? And Rafa, where next for Rafa?
I mean, sure. Take who you can get. There's a real shortage of managers to go around for even the top teams right now. So if you're Everton, you take who you can get. Absolutely. Yeah. I think Keith's right. I mean, the whole approach at Everton from the top down is a bit sick. This owner's come in, bought the club, spent a ton of money. The club have arguably regressed under his tenure. If I'm Everton, I'm sort of thinking about blowing it up from the ground level, in the sense that you need to make a big sale and try to rebuild again. Whether that's for Richarlison or
what do you think about
Calvert-Lewin.
Like a director of football, Evan? Do you not think this highlights the importance of having a philosophy?
Director
of football in a team, like, see, if you have that, then anyone who comes in follows that. I didn't interrupt, mate, but that's the one thing that pisses me off about that. I don't really care, but the amount that's spent, it's like, see if you have people are all saying the manager should have full control. But if you have a philosophy in place and a recruitment and director of football like that, surely you can afford to exchange managers, and that will always be the core.
Yeah, I think you look around the league and you can see evidence of that, Conroy. I mean, you look at Arsenal's current squad, it looks like a squad that was assembled by 3 different directors of football, sporting directors, whatever you want to call them. That's why Arsenal signings are just so like polarizing, so hit or miss. And I think, again, touching on what Keith said, you look in the last 6 months, I'm pretty sure in the last 6 months, Everton have undergone some dramatic upper management changes. The head of youth development out the door, whoever was in a technical director-ish role out the door. So they've changed things up in upper management. They've brought in a coach that I don't think they even fully backed. I remember reading this morning, and I can't remember because I was half awake at 6 a.m. But I remember reading, if you think about coming into a new management position in football, on a number scale, if you start at 0 and work your way up, Rafa Benitez has almost certainly started at like -25. You know what I mean? Like he's already like in the hole based upon who he is, and on top of that, the conditions of the job that he's walking into. Whether there's still a job here for him at the top level, I would say the current managerial crisis that I already talked on, I think it bodes well for him, because there's teams that are going to get desperate. There's teams that are going to want experience and pedigree. And, like you guys said, you can wake up on the wrong side of Merseyside and then the next day wake up in Madrid. It can happen kind of overnight if you have the right jobs on your resume. So football's a funny sport.
It's absolutely indeed funny sport. I mean, look, who would have thought that sort of we're sitting here talking about the ex-Liverpool manager being sacked at Everton, and then the ex-Everton manager who's now about to enter a World Cup with the team he's coaching, being talked about going back into management with his ex-team. It's mad. Like big up Avi's in the building. He says, why would Martinez want to go back to Everton? I think, he's talking about, in terms of he's about to go into a World Cup with Belgium. Probably the last chance of Belgium.
Yeah. Really, really good point, Grizz, because if this Belgium team don't win at the next major tournament, then you can absolutely say that's a golden generation wasted.
Right.
But I think you'd still rather try with Belgium instead of being the guy who pulls out before the World Cup.
That's what I'm saying. Like I was just touching on Gris saying this is like their last chance with that spine.
No, that's a good point. What I just wanted to add as well, guys, to Avi's point, is I heard some rumours, and thankfully he's not a favourite, and we're going to get on about Potter ball. But again, there's rumours Graham Potter. Why the hell would Graham Potter leave a situation, and when also Brighton, it was Dan Ashworth, I don't know, because there's rumours Newcastle trying to get him as kind of either the director of football or in charge of the kind of recruitment and the way the players they bring in. But Potter's got a lot of control in that project as well. Why would he leave that to go to a mess? And this is the thing that does annoy me. And people say, no, it's the stature of the club. It's this, you can get this. Everton have had money for the last 5 years and nothing's worked successfully. Why would you do that when you're genuinely a clinical striker of possibly getting in the top 7 with Brighton? Like, that's not far-fetched that Brighton could get in the top 8 in the next couple of years. Like, that's not a million miles away. So that annoys me. And I don't know if you guys agree with that. There seems to be, I say he doesn't want it. Thanks for that, Mick. Like, but maybe Graham Potter's, his mentality is slightly different. He wants to finish a project. But I just find it a bit, I don't know what it is. I don't know why it's like they think, because I understand big club and they want to go there. But for me, if you've got the recruitment and everything around you in control and the philosophy and it's working, I think football's like that nowadays. Like Crystal Palace, and I was wrong about Patrick Vieira, they want to go for good football and that's working out for them.
So was I, by the way. So was I.
They get Chris Hughton, get rid of him, bring Potter in. Why are they bringing Potter in? Osterson's, he's not going to work it. Proved everybody wrong, by the way. And I feel like, do you think the guards, I'm getting a completely different video here, guys, but do you think the guards changing on that slightly? Do you think teams like, even like Brentford going with Thomas Frank, do you think teams are looking at it slightly differently now, instead of like your Sam Allardyce saviours, like that, the Alan Pardew's? I'm not going to put David Moyes in there because David Moyes has earned his respect back. And there's nothing wrong with those managers, but I do feel like it's slightly different now. Even Hasenhüttl at Southampton, do you get what I'm saying?
Money talks, man. Money talks. That's why Antonio Conte is the manager of Tottenham Hotspurs. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. And
But do you not think most money in the Premier League's a lot now?
Managers get paid. Managers know how to get paid. You know, and Graham Potter has said no for now, but Moshri is a billionaire at the end of the day. So ultimately, if a project can be served to somebody like a Graham Potter, would it make it more attractive? Absolutely. And the potential's there. Of course, what he has at Brighton's, you know, an incredible setup.
I think that knocks 5 years off, Keith. Like that takes 5 years to do anything at Everton, whereas Brighton, he could go from Brighton to like a United or a Tottenham. So for me, I think it's a backward step.
But then comes the next argument. We're talking about different types of owners at different types of football clubs. Yes, can Graham Potter do something now in the now with Brighton? Absolutely. But are you trying to tell me that Moshri cannot also offer pretty much, you know, quite a decent amount of money, right? Probably not so much a blank checkbook, but the guy is billionaire, blah, 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 blah. That riches versus the Brighton riches. Then comes the next debate about the league, which is completely skewed between different types of billionaires versus millionaires in the same playground. And that's what attracts sometimes maybe. But it's true to make like the died out, the kind of hiring of Rafa Benitez, Ancelotti's, those types of kind of old heads, I think is always useful if you have a team and a squad of players there that's already built together. But if you're trying to put on a project, Conroy, I absolutely agree with you. Bringing on someone that can do a project is a better move for Everton. Whether they can take someone else who's doing another project over is also a potential possibility.
That's what Southampton tried to do today, guys. I think they're trying to get Brentford's director of football or head of recruitment. I can't remember his name, apologies, because they've just been bought over or in the process. So I know we can maybe I didn't want to get into this segment, sorry guys, but I just find it fascinating right now. Like there's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes with these teams, and I think it's an interesting time for the Premier League football. And I just wanted to mention that.
No, it is an interesting time, and it's an interesting time, like literally an interesting time, because we've been going for nearly 2 hours. So, yeah, again, amazing show, even though I must say so myself. But I think a lot of people, the fact that we've had constantly close to 400, constantly for nearly 2 hours, shows that you guys have enjoyed it. I don't know if you've relayed that enjoyment in terms of likes. If you haven't, deal with the matter right now. Just click on like. Oh God, yeah, he's right. Mustafa's right, Keith. Go on.
Roman's Fisher's past Brock Lesnar's record 500 thoughts, bro. Incredible reign. Absolutely the right person, but unfortunately, it's getting overshadowed by the fact that Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar are about to share the ring. And for me, that's all I'm focusing on right now. Roman's got to take a backseat to WrestleMania.
Yeah, the rest of us haven't got effing clue what that was about. But listen, that's between Mustafa and Keith. Yeah, every Sunday night they have to have a little conversation. 2 hours went quick, bro. Honestly, I can't explain how that was 2 hours, but it's all about the flow of the chat and the engagement from you guys. It's been wonderful as always, telling us where we're wrong, telling us where we're not the ones with the golden opinions. Of course we're not. We're here to give ours, man. That's the whole purpose of it. We're here to give ours, and we're not saying ours is the correct opinion at all. We're just giving ours, and it's all about you guys disagreeing and agreeing, and it's brilliantly done. Most of it's always respectful. There's always one or two dickheads, but I'm here to deal with them. But yeah, man, all of you, much love. Of course, love to the REDFELLAS. We'll be back next Sunday for the REDFELLAS show. We'll have some shows in midweek if they can be bothered and I can get them motivated. But apart from that, guys, love you and leave you all. This has been REDFELLAS post-match for a comfortable 3-0 win at home to Brentford. We go to Emirates, try to reach the Carabao Cup and take it from there. We out.